What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 predictions. Washington State is up next. Let's take a look at some of the other predictions for the Cougars. The FBI has them at 5.5 and 6.5. Athlon has them at 6 and 6. The over-under, I've seen it at 6, and I've seen it at 6.5. This is a team that's kind of flying under the radar. No one's really even talking about Washington State. Definitely an underrated team in my opinion. You know, all the attention in the Pac-12 is going to Washington and Oregon, USC, even Oregon State, UCLA, obviously Utah. You know, those 6 teams really get a lot of attention. And then Colorado's getting a lot of attention. And then you've got all the conference realignment talk with Colorado leaving and then maybe Washington and Oregon leaving. I mean, there's all this talk about all these Pac-12 teams, but no one's talking about Washington State. Now, they bring back Cameron Ward, who was pretty good last year. They have weapons around him on offense, a pretty good offensive line, a really good defensive line. If there is a concern for Washington State, it's at the linebacker position. So this is a team that's not, you know, they're not a top tier team in the Pac-12. I'm not saying that, but they have a chance to be pretty good. And remember, they upset Wisconsin last year, went on to go 7 and 6, but 7 and 5 in the regular season. I could see them doing something like that again this year. So let's look at the schedule. They open up with Colorado State on September the 2nd. On the road, an interesting matchup here. Washington State should be the better team. But they are playing on the road at a group of 5 teams, so maybe they get off to a slow start. At the end of the day, though, I think Washington State does get this win. So I think they start off 1-0. Then they'll play Wisconsin on September 9th at home. Revenge game for Wisconsin. I just think this is going to be a totally different Wisconsin team than Washington State beat last year. It's just going to be different. Their offense is going to be totally different. They've added a lot of transfers. They've got a new quarterback. It's just going to be a good Wisconsin team. And I think Wisconsin does go on the road and get some revenge here. I'm going to go with the Badgers. And I think Washington State loses that game. Then they bounce back and they beat Northern Colorado. Next game is against Oregon State, September 23rd. I think this team has a big win in them. Maybe it's this game. You know, you look at the rest of their games, their other big-time opponents, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, all those games are on the road. So this is the one I circle. I think they're going to get a big win, and I'm going to say it's against Oregon State. I think they beat them. You do worry about the linebacker play for Washington State. Can they stop the run game of Oregon State? That's going to be tough. That's a tough matchup. But I like the Washington State offense going up against this Oregon State defense. Going to be a good one. I think it'll be close either way. But we're going to say Washington State gets that win. They'll follow that up with a road game against UCLA. Going to be a tough matchup here. UCLA team that's going to be able to score a lot of points. And just from a talent perspective, I think UCLA is the better team here. Plus, you're playing the game on the road. I realize it's not the toughest place in the country to play, but I think that UCLA a little bit too good here. UCLA beats Washington State. Then they get Arizona on October the 14th at home. This is an Arizona team that also I think is really underrated, and I think that both of these teams are kind of flying under the radar. I did pick Arizona in this game, partially just because, you know, maybe they don't beat Oregon State. And again, I'm trying to get the record right, not necessarily worrying about each individual game. It's crazy to make game by game predictions really when you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to have injuries, you're going to have all kinds of things going on. So again, we're just trying to get that record correct or get it as close as possible. And remember that when we do these predictions. So I think they lose either to Oregon State or Arizona. They win one of those 2 games. Oregon going to be a tough one. This is going to be a really good Oregon team. I don't really see them winning that game. And you know, I said that Washington State had a big win in them, maybe against Oregon State. I think Arizona State has a big win in them, and I think this is another team that is really underrated. I think you look at how bad they were last year, a new coach, but they've added a lot of transfers, and I think this is a team that's going to be better than a lot of people expect. I think they pull off an upset here, and Washington State loses to drop to 3 and 5. Maybe I'm being pessimistic here. Again, I'm looking at this team, and I think they're going to be pretty good. I just think that there's a lot of teams in the Pac-12 that are going to be better than you think. I think Arizona's going to be better than you think. I think Arizona State's going to be better than you think. I even think Cal's going to be better than you think. Before we get to Cal, though, let's go to Stanford. This is a team that I don't think is going to be better than you think. I think this will be one of the worst teams in the Power 5. I think this will be the worst team in the Pac-12. Really just didn't do anything to upgrade their roster. They weren't very good last year. New coach, new staff. I think it's going to take them some time. I think Washington State bounces back and they win this one pretty easy. And then they play Cal. Another tough matchup, a veteran team. This team has a lot of production returning this year. The game is on the road. And again, I think between Arizona State and Cal, they win one, they lose one. I've got them losing to Arizona State, so I think they beat Cal. Then you get Colorado on the 17th at home. A good game here. These teams should be pretty even, but I think Washington State just a little bit better. Plus, they're playing at home. I've got the Cougars getting this win. And then they close things out with a road game against Washington. Don't really see them winning this game. This Washington team is just going to be so good this year. Too good for Washington State. So I think they lose that game. They finish 6-6. I do think 7-5 is more likely than 5-7 because they could easily beat Arizona or Arizona State maybe and get to 7-5, or maybe even beat Wisconsin. So if you're looking at those over-unders, especially if you can get them at 6, I think this team definitely is going to, I think they at least get 6 wins, but maybe 7-5 again. Like I said, a team that's maybe a little bit underrated, flying under the radar going into this season, not going to contend in the Pac-12 for a Pac-12 championship, but I think they are definitely better than the lower tier of the Pac-12, and I think that gets them to 7-5 or 6-6, and that's going to be my official prediction, 6-6 for Washington State. Give me your thoughts, your predictions on this team down in the comments below.